because we need somebody with an infrastructure perspective. A couple of points I want to make. One is rapid growth is stressing our roads. I have 25 years of experience as a civil engineer. I understand transportation funding better than anyone. I'm going to help get our roads fixed in Utah County. My opponents can't do that. Number two, mandates from the state are bogging down our cities and our schools. I have worked with cities across the state for 25 years and I understand how they work. Even as a political outsider, I have the support of our city and school leaders. I'm going to improve collaboration and reduce the out-of-control regulation by engaging our city and school leaders. Mike Kennedy did a great job with that. My opponents have not.
Okay, and feel free to clap in this if you hear something you like.
Delegates, my name is Bill Lee. Thank you for coming tonight. In the past, I have sat in your shoes trying to find a candidate that best reflects me and who I will, and hold true to the promises that they make. You will find the Republican candidates will agree on about 85% of the time on the issues that are there. But there's 15% of the time that they disagree. And that's where our lives are really impacted. Your job is to find a candidate who reflects your position. As I continue to talk with you, one question keeps coming up. Did you vote for Phil Lyman in the primary election? This is one of those 15% questions that separate us as candidates. I will tell you, I voted for Phil, and I didn't vote for the governor in the last two primary elections with him on it. Some will call this a purity question, but I think it reflects the political mindset. Keep asking all the questions that you'd like to. My name is Bill Lee, and I'm running to become your next Utah State Senator.
Thanks, Bill. Mike, can you hear it okay? There we go. My name's Eric Vernon, and appreciate being here. It's fun to see your faces. Some of you got a text message from me on Monday with a video introducing me, so I don't need to say much more. The effort behind that is for me to make a personal connection with each of you. It's hard to go door to door, 350 different delegates, but it matters that you know me personally. My approach is common sense, and I'm not interested in political gamesmanship. I'm a fresh face. I'm excited to be part of this. I see this as both an interview where you come and you look at us and say, does he line up? Does he check that box? But it's also a chance for you to become convinced that I will listen to you and take what you believe, what matters to you, and represent that well at the Capitol. Thanks.
Hello, delegates. My name is Brady Brammer. Now, you have a job in front of you, and that's figuring out who you can trust. So how are you going to figure that out? You know, I have two 7-year-olds. They're twins. Their names are Jack and Hadley. And I taught them how to ski the last few years. And there's a pivotal moment when you're teaching someone how to ski, and that's the moment that you say, we're going to go up on the chairlift. And they have to learn to trust you. And they trust you because they can see how you've treated them in the past, and that you will do what you say you're going to do. And so here, you're trying to figure out who you can trust among people that are telling you things, and they may be things that you want to hear and that you hope for, but you don't know if they can deliver. The difference between me and the other candidates up here, who are all good men, is that I have a track record that you can look at. You can look at 6 years of proven conservatism. 30 seconds. Yeah, so I'm going to use my 30 seconds. You can look at 6 years of proven effectiveness, and that is something that you can look at the evidence to show that you can trust me to do what I say I'm going to do because I've already been doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to each one of you for serving as delegates tonight. in being part of this special election. It's a very important role. My name is Van Broderick, and I'm running for Senate District 21. In my introduction, I'm a Utah Valley boy. I'm a lifetime Republican. I was born and raised in Orem with a large family and parents that taught us faith in God, taught us love of neighbor, taught us patriotism and love of country. We were taught how to work as well. My first paying job was picking fruit in the cherry orchards of Orem. I earned an Eagle Scout Award, graduated from Orem High School, served a 2-year mission, and graduated from BYU with an electronics engineering technology degree. After that, my wife and I moved to Linden, where we've lived for the last 36 years. My 3 children and 11 grandchildren are a significant reason as to why I'm running.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. So, spoiler alert, I already put the first one up. So we will jump right into that. Name a great thinker that you learned a lot from. Diego, you want to start?
Clayton Christensen, he is a Harvard business professor that's now passed away, but he wrote some books on disruptive technology, great book on disrupting class, just a great thinker, somebody I admire. Probably the best book is How Will You Measure Your Life? Highly recommend it.
Mine is Fred Bastiat. He wrote the book called The Law, and I appreciate his insight into what that is and the proper role and how we can use government in an effective way, but also be very careful of what it can do, because it's like fire. It can be used, fire can be used in a productive way, or it can be used to destroy. And I think that's what he was trying to get at, and so The Law by Fred.
All right, this is one of my heroes. I grew up in Oak Hills in Provo, just up by the temple, the old temple. And in our neighborhood was Stephen R. Covey. His son was my age, and so I grew up eating and drinking and living the 7 habits. Love that. One day he came to me and he said, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "I want to be a lawyer because I want to change the world." And he said, "That's a bad idea." He said, "You got to think win-win." And I said, I think that's good, and I'm going to try to make that part of what I do. But as a lawyer, I think I do things that really matter.
James Madison. I fell in love with James Madison as a senior in high school when I had to read the Federalist Papers as part of the government and politics competition. And I have loved the way that he views government, that he understands the separation of powers, and that he understands how we have to make sure that we pit government against government so that it doesn't take over our freedoms.
There are lots of people that have influenced me over the years, and sometimes you take a little piece from each one. John Adams is a great one. I liked when Davy Crockett once talked about farm subsidies, and this is going to be strange. And the concept, he said, if you were to go to somebody and say, "Give me money so that your neighbor won't plant corn, so that the price of corn will stay high." It's just a unique story, but that has impacted me forever and ever, and that's been a great influence on me.
All right. We're going to see where this goes. Okay. In the Utah State Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, it states that all free governments are founded on their authority for their equal protection and benefit. The state of Utah allows for specially approved private developers to become temporary government entities under the name Public Infrastructure Districts, or PIDs, primarily to take advantage of lower interest rates given to government entities that are not allowed to the public. Do you see a conflict between Article 1, Section 2 and PIDs?
Yes, I do. I think this goes back to proper rules of what government should be doing, and in a case like this, we're setting up special interest groups to go forward and compete against the private sector. I do not like that. I think that it goes back again to what we stand for and what we should be doing, and the government should get out of the way of those types of activities.
Done right, I'm in favor of partnerships between government and the private sector. I think that you get to solutions that are better and faster, often in the private sector. However, it's always got to be done with balance. It always has to be done in a way that doesn't hurt your tax base, and I think we don't negotiate hard enough or well enough with the private sector when we partner with them. We give away too much. But in general, I'm in favor, and I think there can be great solutions that come from those partnerships.
So PIDs are difficult because what's happening is you typically have a group coming and they're saying, we're going to bring a ton of value to this area, and in exchange for that, we want some rebate on our taxes. This is a problem in the sense that it isn't the proper role of government to do. Now, that doesn't mean that you always win every vote on it, but it is beyond what it should be, and the bigger problem has been GOEO, which is not necessarily a PID, but it's actually just a pure subsidy. So if you're going to fight, that's a bigger evil, but PIDs have some problems as well.
I am absolutely opposed to these. They become their own taxing entity. They have no representation from the people. There's no recourse to come back in that regard. So I am opposed to these as developers imposing fees. I'm a huge advocate of letting the traditional role of city government control those areas. It's the area closest to the people, the most effective form of most effective form of government, and the most accountable.
I am not a big fan of PIDs. They are used by developers to fund infrastructure, and quite often the owners that come in after the fact are surprised by their higher taxes. I think there's actually other things though that would apply here, such as Midas, Mayflower. So there are other types of vehicles that are even much more concerning to me than PIDs themselves, but I am not a fan of PIDs.
Next question is, ESG, Environmental Social Governance, is a new global acronym that has regulations that have prohibited Utahns from getting outside contracts because of their inability to meet certain employment demands. Please argue in favor or against ESG.
This is my world as a corporate lawyer. I fill out ESG statements all day long, and there are some good things as we strive for a world that's fair and has equality, and we look to the future, and we want to leave a planet that's taken care of, and we want diversity across boards. I'm not in favor of it being pushed down from the federal government. I think that we need to avoid that, and to the extent it helps us move forward and move forward in a way that's responsible as businesses, it's a great check on what businesses do.
I am 100% against ESG issues. And not only that, I've done something about it. I have worked to get rid of ESG in our state. We passed the Public Money Management Act, where we stripped ESG from our system. We have created financial accountability for those that do try to follow ESG, and we have stripped our public funds from investing in ESG solutions. By solutions, I mean problems.
I am also very much opposed to ESG. We do things on merit. Yes. That's how we measure. That's how we reward. I'm opposed to ESG, DEI, CRT. I'm opposed to the next three-letter acronym that will come out that is full of woke nonsense. And we don't even know what it is yet. But you know I'm opposed to it.
I am also opposed to ESG, but let me talk really quickly about how the state legislature is passing similar legislation and regulation. For example, the TSSD, Timpanogos Special Service District, has new mandates from the state about its requirements that are going to cost all of us a lot of fees. So whatever the acronyms are, I am not necessarily about the acronyms, but in this case, I oppose it. And I actually also oppose state regulation that is doing similar things to our cities, our districts, our local communities.
I am too 100% against the ESG. I think Marlo Oaks has done a phenomenal job of bringing awareness to this issue. He has brought it forward so that we can look at it, articulate, and I really like what Diego said there too, because you can call it one thing, ESG, but if you don't just switch around the letters a little bit, you can call it something else. And so the tendencies of it need to change. We do not need this type of stuff in our state government at all, and down the county or the cities.
Okay, if a member of a party signs a petition, do you believe that inherent in the definition of petition is the waiving of privacy regarding that act and those signatures should be public?
100% yes. Here's one of the problems that we're dealing with is, some of those privacy issues came up. The legislature usually defers to, let's try to create privacy for our citizens, but in the context of signing a petition, you waive your right to privacy, and your opponent needs to be able to verify. I don't like signatures, but your opponent needs to verify and challenge your signatures and have that opportunity to do so.
When candidates use the signature gathering process to avoid you as delegates, those signatures absolutely must be made public. They must be transparent. They must be verified. When you are using your signature to cause an action for candidates and for somebody to become eligible, that must be known. Very few exceptions to that.
There are two issues with this question. One deals with election integrity. Absolutely, we need election integrity. We need to be able to verify signatures, but no way. If I'm signing something, my privacy is important too. And unless there's very clear guidance on making that public, I don't think so. I think it's important to protect our privacy, and I think we can do both. We can protect our privacy, and we can ensure that there's integrity in our elections.
When it comes to the signatures like that are being collected, I don't think they should be public. I think they should be public. They shouldn't be private. For instance, if you want to go with the Fifth Amendment and say, I don't want to speak or I don't want to talk, that's fine. You can do it. But as soon as you start speaking or talking, you've waived that right. And the same thing happens when you're filing something on a public document like that. Now for me, I will never collect signatures. I have never collected signatures, and I've never even filed the intent to collect signatures with somehow.
Well, we need to win back the confidence of the voters somehow, and I think that's a significant issue. It's the fundamental basis of our democracy. I'm not asked who I voted for when I walk out of the ballot box. I'm with Diego on this. I think we protect it, but I think there's got to be a better way to do this. It feels so antiquated, where we can actually have it. It's got to be verifiable, but I think it stays private.
Okay, let's do another getting to know you real quick. Name a movie or a story where the human spirit has moved you to tears.
Thank you, a fun question. So not too long ago, my mother said, I want you to read this book, and I know you've read it, and I know you've all read it, and it's Where the Red Fern Grows. And so I just read it. I confess I cry in that when I know what's happening, I know what's going to come. It's a great book, wonderful story, and I cried.
Yes.
So I am a big baby. So ask my kids and my wife. I think there is just any show. So the last Disney show. So I think just about anything will bring me to tears. A good story, well told, with good music, just builds emotion. So yeah, I'm a baby. There's too many to count.
Well, man, you picked mine, so I'm going to pick my second one. I love Where the Red Fern Grows. It just has that feeling. But Another one that I have, it has to do with a dog too, Fence Old Yeller. I think those two, for me, are just amazing. I grew up with them and watched them over and over, on tape, right? So those are mine, Old Yeller and also Western Drive.
One of my favorite movies is Amazing Grace. It tells the story of William Wilberforce and his fight to root out racism in England. It's a remarkable story. It's a story of courage, of determination, of a 20-year fight to do something. And at the end of the day, even, a little bit of trickery. It's a very fascinating, great movie called Amazing Grace, and that's one that really moves me. He's a hero.
So the older my kids get, the more I cry during movies. But I'm going to give you the book that was the first time that it really touched me, and that was The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. And that's a World War II book. And that one did it for me. I was in tears on that one. Thanks.
Okay, the next question. Utah has very loose revolving door protections between being a lobbyist, an elected official, and a government employee. Is this a problem, and how would you address this?
My turn. We do have a lot of conflicts and potential conflicts of interest. I think the state does a pretty good job. I actually work with UDOT quite a bit, and there are a lot of public employees that go to the private sector. We need to be very careful to protect public funds. I don't have any specific ideas in mind, but we do need to protect integrity. We need to make sure that we have conflict of interest statements. Thank you.
So this one, I have an example on it that caused me some problems as a county commissioner. We had a state legislator who came to us and said, I want to be your lobbyist. And I was like, wait, this is a conflict of interest. No, it's all legal, is what we were told. Well, it turns out he was saying, what we need to do is I can get you more road funding. And I said, that's your job already as a state representative. And so he got hired. I voted no.
Yeah, I'm in favor of whatever we can do to maintain the integrity of the system. It matters. And I've said this to a few of you. I know that for politics to be done right, sometimes it's a little bit inefficient, and sometimes it has to move a little slower than we like. But that's the protection of the balance of power and separation of powers. That has to absolutely be maintained.
So two things. Number one, I ran a lobbyist regulation bill this last session to increase disclosure for lobbyists. That's something that, the problem is it failed in the Senate. That's part of why I want to move over to the Senate, is so that I can get that passed. The second thing is we cannot have local governments hiring lobbyists with tax dollars rather than going through their representatives.
The term special interest starts by giving you a little bit of information about what's going on. It's very special, very limited at that point. You have to be very, very, very cautious of those lobbyists and keep that separation. Let the legislators and Senate do their jobs.
Okay, miscellaneous and conspiracy or not. And I don't remember which ones these are. I put them in and it would take me too long to look, so we're just gonna let it roll. So special interest groups donate to campaigns because overall and in the long term, it works in their favor. Do you and or will you be accepting money from anyone or any organization that wants to donate? Or what rules would you have on political donations, if any?
Yes, great question. I had a lobbyist come to me once when I was running a campaign, and they said, I've donated to your opponent, and it looks like you're going to win, and so I want to donate to your campaign. And I said, that's interesting. Why would you want to do that? And he says, well, I just want to be fair and equal. And I said, that doesn't matter. I mean, our First Amendment rights to be able to express where we want to go, and one of those is donations. We've got to be really careful with that, because I think that every time I talk with them, we got to lay down the law what it means.
Yeah, I agree with Bill on this. Not for sale, and I'm not willing to change my mind based on a donation. Haven't taken any yet, but still new to this. But that's my feeling on it.
So I follow the Ronald Reagan principle. When someone donates to your campaign, that means there was an issue where a person, a Bill Report, donated to Ronald Reagan's campaign, and they asked him about it. And he responded, he said, that means that person supports me, it doesn't mean I support them. We have to have full transparency, and just because someone donates to you doesn't mean that you owe them anything ever, and you need to draw that line.
I have run 3 separate campaigns for the Linden City Council. People from time to time do make donations. Not once has anybody asked for any special favors or any special treatment. That is not the way it works. If somebody donates, that's great, but I don't change my policies or standing. I support our party, I support our platform, I support our delegates.
I love all the answers that have been given. I guess what I'll say is I have received funds from myself, my father-in-law, and a friend so far. So I totally agree. I don't think that those funds mean any special access or any special treatment. One of the beauties of this system is that it does not take a lot of money to talk to the delegates, to go door to door, to print a few flyers, but it does cost a little bit. And it's helpful to have that help, but it does not provide any special treatment.
Okay, next, carbon and pollution. Are pollution and carbon the same? Is carbon high or low? And where are we right now with that? So your thoughts on this?
Yeah, am I the one that gets to start? Yeah, for me, this is an important issue, and I really believe that we need to leave this world in a better place for the next generations that come. I believe Utah can lead out on this and have a beautiful state and also have renewable energy. Talked to a lot of you about that. I feel like we need to move beyond fossil fuel in a measured way, but in a way that makes sense for all of us into the future. A firm believer in clean air and anything we can do to make sure that we take care of this.
And take care of the environment. Our party platform talks about this, that it's weighed with the economic factors, that you can't destroy the economy. We must have a robust energy sector. Fuels in the United States are much cleaner than other places. I'm a huge fan of that balance, but not jeopardizing the economy.
I love Utah. I love our mountains. I love it when we have clean air. I love the environment. I am an all of the above energy solutions, including oil shale from eastern Utah, natural gas. I have been trying to advance as an engineer infrastructure to advance ground source heat pumps, geothermal for heating and cooling. I think we can be efficient, and industry is interested. So I think there's a lot of opportunities.
When I was working for Senator Mike Lee in his office, I had a group come in, and they said, we want the senator to get rid of all fossil fuels. And I said, really, you want to get rid of all fossil fuels? And I said, well, what are we going to do? You're going to turn our country completely into chaos, because that's exactly what it would do. Now, we all want to be clean, responsible, and productive when it comes to fuel, but we can't destroy, like I heard, our economy, we can't destroy our way of life, and we're progressing in a pretty good time.
Okay, next question. Where do you stand on ranked choice voting?
I'm opposed to ranked choice voting, and I tried to kill it last year, I'm gonna kill it this year.
Easy question to answer, no.
The funny thing is, I learned about ranked choice voting at Central Committee meetings here in the Republican Party. I have been involved as a county delegate, chair of my precinct, vice chair. Look, I get it. I think no matter what, we need our elections to be very, very accurate, very transparent, and whatever system gets that for us, that's what I support.
I'm completely against it as well. And it's interesting because sometimes you look at it and you think, wow, this can help out a process. But if you listen to Wendy Hart or Christie as they went around the state talking about this issue, I mean, it becomes so apparent and clear that it's off. It's off. We cannot have ranked choice voting at all.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, Bill. We need to do what we can, like I said, to restore the confidence of the voters in what we're doing. And whatever that takes for us to be able to make sure that the voters at the end of the day are convinced that their vote counts and that there's stability and predictability in voting and how it's counted. So I'm against it.
Okay, next question. The governor's initiative Disagree Better partnered with the Dignity Index that has a rating system that creates a hierarchy in speech using the numbers 1 through 8. Contempt speech being a 1 and dignity speech being an 8. What are your thoughts on ranking speech in society? And if you had to create a ranking system, what would you put at the top?
That is a long question.
Not the 1 minute one, not a 30-second.
You gotta tell me that before.
Read it again.
I believe in treating everybody with dignity and respect and listening to their voice. But I don't change my standards or my principles or my values. You can be passionate about something and I can be passionate about it. I don't need to be argumentative and neither do you. I don't need to be deciding if I'm a 1, a 6, or an 8. Treat everybody with respect. Hold your values. Make sure everybody's voice is heard, and then make the best decisions that you know you should make.
I agree we need to have civil discourse. I'm a civil engineer, so civil discourse that fits. But I don't love this system. And one of the things I don't like about it is that you can have conflict without having contention. I've worked as a professional facilitating partnering in construction, and you work through a lot of conflict between owners and contractors. It can be done. You can actually be very productive.
Do you remember the movie Dead Poets Society, in which he was they're talking about, literature and poems, and he stood up there with this Pritchard scale? Remember that movie? Well, they kind of reminded me of that. And I think it's just ridiculous that we're trying to get our conversations down to, scoring each other or scoring what's going on. I think we should always be on a civil basis and have civil dialogue, which can be passionate, and it can be direct, and it should be, but it needs to be civil as we're having those kind of discussions and not necessarily score each other because one person speaks a little louder or their emotions are a little bit more than the other person.
Yeah, I believe in political opponents, but not political enemies. The path forward in political discourse is for us to have open dialogue. I do not believe in bullying. It's not going to get us anywhere. I actually went to a training on this very issue for, as lawyers, we take CLE each year. And I think that it's example that matters. And I've tried for 30 years to be an advocate as a lawyer, to advocate a position, yet do so with a smile and with respect for those that are on the other side. And that's what I intend to do.
So this sounds like some sort of crazy social credit score in a communist country. And I'm not in favor of it. Now, Our state constitution, Article 1, Section 1, the very first thing we learn about in our state constitution is the right to free speech, and it differs from our federal constitution in a really special way. Our state constitution says not only do we have the right to free speech, but we are accountable for how we use it. That means that we do not do these credit scores. We let people be accountable for how they use their free speech. I will fight for you to say offensive things. Offensive speech is still protected speech. Whether that's a good thing or not for your life is up to you. But as far as it relates to the government and their relationship to your speech, you have every right to say every offensive, hateful, terrible thing, and you will bear the consequences. The government will not prevent your speech.
Okay, the next question, we'll do 30 seconds on this, but if somebody wants to take an extension, it is a hot issue right now. Where do you stand on Prop 11 and Prop 14 and why?
I support the split of the district. I think that problems are solved best at the local level, closest to the problem. I have concerns about the legislation and how it was handled, including the special session, but when it comes to the split and the proposition, I support it.
I also support it. I've been advocating for that for years. I've been asked that question over and over about the Alpine School District, and I think that, and I've mentioned that I think it's too big. I think we need to get government back to, locally so that we can have better control and have more of a voice. And so both Prop 11 and 14, it is interesting to see how it is. I don't have a vote in that. I live in Pleasant Grove, so I don't have that vote on 11 or 14, but I'm in favor of both those.
Yeah, I'm in favor of Proposition 11. My wife and I talked through this. I've talked with some school teachers. We actually called an administrator here in the local area. He's against it. And I think we need to be careful to consider the teachers, the administrators, and especially the students, and do it right. I am very glad that it's going to take a 3-year runway to make sure that it's carefully put together. And I think we can do it and still make sure the teachers and students are taken care of.
I strongly support Prop 11 and Prop 14. I ran the legislation to enable it. And in addition to that, my wife has formed a PAC and is running the Yes on Prop 11 campaign. And I was up late last night putting up signs around my district in support of it. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We're donating to make sure that happens, both time and money. This needs to pass, and I think it's going to be for the best for all 3 areas in the end.
Thank you. I'm a product of the Alpine School District. It was formed in 1915. Went from Orem at Spencer High School to Lehigh. As these propositions come out, as a resident of Linden, we have no vote in this, but I will absolutely support the voice of the people. Whatever this election comes out, if it's 3 school districts, we will make them work in our areas. If it's 2, we'll make them work, and if it's 1, we'll make them work. But the voice of the people will be heard and respected.
Okay, the next question. Sundance Resort has been approved to be in MIDA, which stands for the Military Installation Development Authority, one of Utah's Big 5 special district authorities, which will give Sundance $35 million in taxpayer dollars for their new lodge. How do you feel about taxpayer money being given to private corporations?
All right, I'm up. I've watched that and followed that, and these special service districts, I do not like. We have 5 big ones in the state, and the military is one of those. I am opposed to that kind of language. I'm opposed to that kind of government involvement. I know they're trying to pull it back and allow Utah County to have some authority on there, but they're allowing Utah County to have the authority. Isn't that interesting on that, in the way of their regulations and so forth? I'm against that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I follow this one, and in general, I'm in favor. I love that it supports veterans and it supports the military. I think it's a way to make that happen that won't otherwise happen again. It all has to be done carefully above the board, but there can be some good things that come out of public and private partnership.
I have some concerns on the expansion into Sundance. I'm not sure that that fits within the original purpose of MIDA. MIDA was originally meant to be around Hill Air Force Base so that they could control the zoning around Hill Air Force Base, and it's kind of gotten out of control in terms of this public finance process. You know, there is a reason to control the zoning around, you know, a military base, but I don't view any military bases in Sundance. So I have some concerns on that.
Thank you. This is a great question. From a large 50,000 foot view, anytime you're taking taxpayer dollars, that's your dollars, and given to somebody else, it needs to be used and done very carefully. Military, we start to look, we like them, we like their service. We start looking at sports complexes and baseball fields and things. I have a real hard time with federal dollars, our dollars, being used to sponsor private organizations.
I also have a hard time with Midas. I mentioned it earlier, I have a harder time with these than PIDs. I don't think that we need to incentivize growth. I don't think that focusing on infrastructure would generate growth, but we need to pay attention to the growth that we have right now. We have a huge deficit in our infrastructure, and we need to pay attention to that. We have a lot of growth already happening. I don't see a need to incentivize it through tax dollars.
Okay, our next question, and we're gonna go just like 5 minutes over, and then we'll do the closing just because we started late with that medical emergency that happened. Hope you guys are okay with that. We're on a roll and they've done really great. We'll keep it going. This question, near and dear to a lot of people, privacy and access to digital information has become an area of concern for many. What ideas do you have regarding protecting digital identity and ensuring that corporations do not have the ability to remove public access to goods and services based on digital permissions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Great question. As a company, I work for All Clear Aerospace and Defense, and we're a company that has, secured rights and deals with government secret information. I believe that we have to be as careful as we possibly can with private data. And what we do with that is an absolute right for each individual. We're moving so fast from a technology perspective that it can move without us even knowing it. So I'm in favor of whatever we can do to make sure that those are protected carefully.
So a couple of years ago, I passed the first Data Privacy Act in the state of Utah, and I think it may be one of the first ones in the nation. Additionally, I've been working with my legislative chair, Krista Chevre, and our LCC committee on this very issue to try to come up with ideas to protect personal data and to protect both health data and identifying data. It's an area that we have, it's complicated, and we need to do some real work in this area. And I encourage anyone to work with their LCC to make this happen, because our delegates can help us.
Thank you, I agree with that 100%. Our privacy is important. It can't be sold. It has to be used in the right way to protect and to not go too far. It starts sometimes with a good idea, and then it starts going into further things where the invasion into our privacy becomes too much.
We need to protect our identities, and especially in the digital world. There are so many changes coming our way. The legislature is considering digital driver's licenses. There are autonomous vehicles, interconnected vehicles. It's important that as we move forward, we think about our personal privacy and protect it.
I agree in the protection, and I don't know about you, but I hate it when I'm sitting there talking about something like, I'd like to buy some wool socks, and next thing you know, on my phone, there's wool socks everywhere. And so it throws us into a little bit of a chaos and a panic situation. But but I know we're talking about data on this one and what that data is. And so that is one of government's fundamental roles, is to protect its citizens. And so cybersecurity and data breaches is something that we need to take serious. It is becoming a very dangerous world out there when we're talking about cyber and cybersecurity, and we need to protect it.
Okay, we're gonna do 2 more questions and then we'll do our closing. The second to last question says, the Utah Legislative Auditor General's Report number 2023-16, a performance audit of Utah housing policy, has been rejected by multiple groups in a handful of cities, citing that there are multiple single-family parcels available and approved for development, but they are being ignored next to the government-incentivized high-density housing. Do you support centrally planned housing, and if so, when and where in history has it been successful?
Generally, no. I do not support centrally planned housing. I do believe the cities should have the ability to zone according to the citizens and what the citizens want in those cities. Every city needs to be able to choose their own adventure. Now, we have a lot of lots that are struggling because that have not been built because of increased inflation, both in terms of products and in terms of wages. But that doesn't mean that we need to come in and control everything, and I think that, that the legislature has gone too far in that respect.
As a city councilman for the last 11 years, state government needs to respect the traditional role of city government. One size does not fit all. All cities are different and unique. There are too many mandates that come down that are either unfunded or unworkable. Rear yard setbacks, width of roads, absolutely needs to be left to the cities. Again, closest to the government, most respect to the government.
No to central planning, but yes to good planning and good design and good communities that are livable and walkable and prioritize their quality of life. I totally agree with local control. Decisions about zoning and land use are best made at the local level. We need to protect that.
So I don't know if you know about Governor Cox's housing czar, Steve Waldrop, but recently he told the media that the government needs to punch back against NIMBYism concerns against high-density housing, and that it's poised to change in each city. When it comes to housing and the housing issues, we need to make sure and take it back to our cities. Let Alpine just determine what Alpine is, and Highland determine what they want, and American Fork the same. This kind of attitude that we're going to dictate what it is wrong.
Yeah, I was surprised the other day to read again that Highland has still the highest house price of any city in the state. And to me, that's interesting. I worry about low-income housing, and I worry about affordable housing. I agree it should be at the local level, but I would push back and put some responsibility on developers to be part of the solution as we look at how to get affordable housing in our cities in a partnership between developers and cities. And I think we can do it, and we can help solve the problem.
Thank you. This is our last question. SB 54, the signature path to the primary, has allowed money and special interests to put candidates on the ballot, thereby bypassing the caucus system's representation process. Constitutional Amendment D, aka also known as Initiative Superlaws, would also allow money and special interests to put legislation on the ballot, thereby bypassing the legislature's representation process. Since our platform, under the proper form of government section, clearly states this principle, would SB 54 opponents also align with those opposing Initiative Superlaws, or are these different? I apologize for the length.
Yes, you have to turn around and read the whole thing. So starting out with SB 54, I am so absolutely opposed to that. The signature gathering by process bypasses each one of you as the delegates that are vetting the candidates and the issues. I'd have to go back and read through the whole type of thing. With Amendment D, with the legislature wanting to be able to control and change any initiative that's there, that's something to be very cautious of when we're overruling the view of the people, the voice of the people. Sorry, that takes longer.
Amendment D was rushed, so I think that's something that needs to be fixed and that the legislature got wrong. Even though there are good reasons to make changes, it was rushed. I approve and support a representative form of government. I really appreciate the opportunity I've had to get out and talk to many of you. I support the caucus system and the opportunity that we have as delegates to vet candidates one-on-one and deeply veteran.
SB 54 needs to go away, and it needs to go away as soon and as fast as possible, because it does not, I mean, everything that we see with it becomes more and more money, more and more advertising. All it does is just separating us as a party too, and we should have a right to be able to say, this is who we are and this is what we want to do. Now, talking about Amendment D, I am not a fan, and nor was our founders a fan of direct democracy, where it goes straight to the ballot all the time. We cannot afford to have direct democracy. So am I done? Oh, give me 30 more seconds then. I'll take it. Okay. We have to be able to have a way to go through our representative form of government, and that's important for us to go through. I have a proposal, but it takes a lot longer than the 15 seconds that I have left in this. If you want to talk with me about it, I'd be glad to give you my thoughts on how we can kind of bifurcate this issue back and forth. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just focus in on SB 54. I'd like to present what I believe is a workable solution to this issue, where we maintain the power to the people, which is what our Constitution says. If we are able in caucus to hit a certain percentage of participation, I don't know what that is yet, I'm studying it, I'm trying to come up with a proposal. Then, if we hit that percentage, then you stay with the caucus only. But if you do not have the participation that's needed, then at 30 seconds, then at that point, you'll have a trigger that brings on the ability for for a signature ballot. Because I'm concerned that we maintain the voice of the people. I think it can happen through the caucus system as long as it's healthy and it's robust and we have the participation.
I'm going to go ahead and just ask for my extra 30 seconds on this one, preemptively. Okay, number one, SB 54, I would repeal SB 54 immediately. I would love to do that. It's been hard to get up for a vote. You've seen that in the legislative history, but I would repeal it. The initiative process, I'm in favor of a republic form of government. So I am not in favor of initiatives. I think a lot of bad things have happened. And if you look at states that share what the Supreme Court did, which is an initiative process that can't be overruled by a legislature, you get California. And their initiative process has been a disaster for them. Now, what have I done to support the caucus system? Well, I've already run a bill to open up, instead of just K through 12 schools, because in addition to getting rid of SB 54, we also need to support the caucus system. So, one of the things that I've done is open up universities to support caucus nights. The other thing that will save the party as much as $150,000 a year is opening up universities to support convention. And I'm running that way.
Well done, everyone. Okay, so we are going to have our 2-minute closers. I believe Diego, you started, right? So we'll have Bill Lee start.
Well, thank you, delegates, for being here. I think it's always interesting to see how we have some differences, and I think that's what you're looking for, is to find the opportunities where we do have some differences. I wanted to point out a few things because people are always asking me, what have you done or where you're at, and to show the consistency that I've been over the years. During the pandemic, I opposed mask mandates. I voted against it. I was one commissioner against the other two were for. I also opposed the vaccine mandates that were being thrown out there. Because of that, there was heavy pressure from the governor that would come down and say, you've got to go this direction and you've got to do this. I was a no, and I'll be willing to stand up against the governor even if I get elected as your state senator. I think it's important that somebody can say no up there as well. Utah needs bold leaders who will defend the conservative values that we have and make no apology for that. It's important that we do that. As your state senator, I will provide the proper check and balance to Governor Cox's executive powers that he holds and he exercises. I found it offensive during that pandemic when we had every 30 days another order saying we're in, it's an emergency. And I had conversations with him on the phone, and I said, Governor, you're destroying our form of government because the people can't go anywhere. All they can do is send you an email. You need to be able to talk with our legislators. The legislators get together, and then we can discuss some of the problems of the day. And so I pushed hard against that. I pushed all the time. And I, again, like I said last time in our meeting, I bear the scars from those conservative principles and pushing that direction. Although there are powerful voices on Capitol Hill, we need to make sure and protect the caucus to convention system. Because although it's not perfect and we can work on some of the ways that we can support it better, it needs to be supported, and I will do that as your next senator.
Okay, one of these things is not like the other. I wish we had been able to talk more about fiscal policy, and I could talk about some of the ideas I have there. You'll find that I'm very conservative when it comes to balanced budget and the policies in the area of fiscal spending. So, a couple things I'd like to make sure that you remember as we finish this evening. First of all, business lawyers make great legislators. People ask, what's your experience? I say 30 years of experience, seeing how legislation impacts people and businesses. That's what I do. I would just be moving upstream. Second of all, fresh face. I'm not a career politician. I'm not beholden, and I'm not afraid. And I commit to represent you and what you tell me that I can take up to the Capitol. Third, strong believer in education and supporting education and funding education. I believe that education is the path forward to make it through the misinformation world we live in, and for our kids especially. There's plenty of information. They need to know how to sort through it, make decisions, and find their path forward. You've seen, I believe, in private sector solutions. It's a measured approach. It's grounded in Article 12 of our state constitution, where it was important enough that it made it in there to say we will support a free market system and maintain the absolute integrity of that system. Finally, a firm believer, as I've said, in communication and respect. Let's have political discussions, but let's show the respect that we need to in order to make sure that all voices are heard and that we move forward with civility. For me, I feel like it's a common sense approach to politics.
So I have two sets of twins, and on the first set, I had to learn a lot about how to manage that. It was a very unique situation. On the second set, I knew how to balance it, I knew how to manage it. There weren't a lot of surprises on the second set of twins. Now, I opened up talking a little bit about who can you trust. And I looked at my track record, and I hope that you will as well. There are people that will say, I will do this, I will do that. I have a record of showing you what I have done. You have evidence to know that I have stood up against the governor, that I have pulled back on his executive powers, that I have killed bad ideas. But one of the things that you also know about me is that I will stand and be an evangelist for conservative ideas, and that I have helped other legislators become more conservative, because I understand deeply the philosophy behind why we are conservative and how that will impact things. And the better that you can have, the better representatives that you can have, particularly in the Senate where they need it, that can help other senators have the courage to be conservative, the better off our state will be. Thank you.
As a general contractor and small business owner, I know what it takes to start with an idea, invest your capital, deal with all government regulations and licensing, and turn that into a successful enterprise that hires today over 40 people. I want to tell you a couple of stories, and if I go over 30 seconds, I'll use them here now, on things that have shaped my life fiscally. I mentioned that I picked cherries as a 12-year-old. We were paid by the pound. Bean cherries, you were paid 5 cents a pound, pie cherries, 3 cents a pound. At the end of the day, the orchard owner would come through with his trailer. Your cherries were in your wooden lugs. Whatever you picked, that's what you were paid. I understand the importance of merit. Now, what did I do with that money? In our family, we were taught where the first 10% would go. The next portion went to savings. The next portion went to buying back to school clothes. Let me tell you, as a 12-year-old, that's really exciting to go spend your money on a couple pair of pants and some shirts. The thing that I really wanted was a fishing pole, my own, with the rod and the reel separately. I knew it cost me 500 pounds of cherries to get that. I also discovered a thing called sales tax that took me 30 pounds extra to get. I want you to know that every dollar government spends was taken from somebody else to give to somebody for some service. I had a neighbor that lives on my street. She asked me to look at her finances a number of years ago. No extra at all. Her budget was very tight. And she was falling behind $180 every month. She had the opportunity, with a drop in interest rates, to save $200 a month on her mortgage. She now went to a positive $20. Anytime there's any increase, anytime there's any spending by the government, in my mind, I think of her. Can I justify taking that money from her? Many times people will say, oh, it's just the cost of a hamburger. But it wasn't to her, and many more like that. My name is Van Gordon. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Diego Carroll. I emphasized in my opening remarks my experience in transportation funding. That experience started after the Olympics, 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, working as an aide for the State Legislative Transportation Planning Task Force. I have had a career filled from working alongside our state, city, and county communities. I've been on the sidelines and I see the deficiencies. We have a lay legislature that is intended to have a broad range of professions and areas of expertise. We do not have a consulting engineering like myself up at the state legislature. I realize that growth is not the only issue. There are a lot of very, very important issues. But growth is really important to me. It's creating a lot of problems for our cities, for our communities. It is challenging and threatening our quality of life. And that is why I'm running. And that's why I'm stepping forward. I could make a lot of money if I just focus all my effort on just my consulting. I am willing to give that up. I'm willing to give up my time. I love to ski in the winters during the legislative session, during the weekdays with my 18-year-old daughter. I love powder days. I'm willing to sacrifice those things, my time, to help you and to help our community, because somebody with my background is needed. I have the support. Even though I am an outsider, I also look a little different here. Yes, I've been around. I have a lot of experience, but I am an outsider. And even so, I have the support of local communities, the cities. Talk to them. Talk to your mayors. Talk to your council members. See who they support and why. What is important to them and why growth, infrastructure is impacting us, and it's critical that we get it right. I am offering to give up my time to serve you as a state senator. My name is Diego Carroll, and I would appreciate your support.
All right, thank you so much to our candidates. We are so grateful for their time, for them coming out. Also, I'm going to put on my teacher hat really quick and just tell me thumbs up, sideways, or thumbs down if you appreciated our debate board's questions tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just some housekeeping issues really quick. Precinct chairs. Raise your hand if you're a precinct chair in Senate District 21. This is the last call for your alternate replacements. Your alternate should have been elected at caucus night. If somebody can't make it on November 2nd, you need to get those to your House chair tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, but those need to be in. So those come off of your alternate list. They were already elected at caucus night, and get those to your House chairs ASAP. And then another thank you to Benjamin, Carmen, and the Timpanogos Honor Guard. Thank you guys very much. If you guys have questions that you didn't see, there's half of the board left remaining that we will do next time. This is where we will be on the 28th, October 28th, Valentine Theater. If you are a precinct chair, your job, this is your assignment, contact all of your county delegates, find out who has come, who hasn't come, make sure that they can be there on November 2nd, and then tell them about this to get them to the next debate and start that conversation. A lot of you have already put yourselves in a text thread where you're having conversations and sharing information. Wonderful, please do that. So precinct chairs, that is your assignment. And one more round of applause for our candidates, and thank you guys so much for coming.